Hello, I'm Robert Moynihan. I'm an American journalist. I've been covering the Vatican for 30 years, the pontificate of John Paul II, his contest with the Soviet Union, his battle over the culture, the election of Pope Benedict, his pontificate, and then the election of Pope Francis, and these last 8 years. I have many different contacts and friends in the church, and among them was Archbishop Carlo Maria Viganò. I came to know him many years ago, but in the past 3 years, this archbishop, an Italian archbishop who is now 80 years old, has become perhaps the single most controversial figure in the Roman Catholic Church. For that reason, I find it imperative to understand how this high-ranking church official could have become such a profound critic not only of corruption in the church, but also of doctrinal confusion, the entire pontificate of Pope Francis, and finally, in recent months, a criticism also the global plan for a single global community, and he has reached beyond his traditional area of expertise to become one of the voices in the world today who is most compelling, most controversial, and most interesting on understanding where we are right now in 2021, and after many decades of modernity have changed not only the Catholic Church, but also the Protestant churches, also Judaism, also Islam. So we have a wide-ranging interview now with this very controversial, very interesting Italian Archbishop Carlo Maria Viganò. Question number 1. Archbishop Viganò, very nice to see you again, and very pleased that you're willing to answer our questions. The great question has 2 parts. It's the world and it's the church. We're looking at a global pandemic, and we're also looking at the church in confusion, in division, whether it's breaking with its tradition or holding fast to its tradition. And you've got comments to make and insights on both of these questions. So what do you think and about the current confusion and crisis in the Catholic Church under the leadership of Pope Francis?
It now seems clear to me that we are facing a siege on both the social and religious front. At the same time, on the other front, not only do the ecclesiastical authorities not condemn in the least the abuse of power by those who govern public affairs, but they support them in this wicked plan, and go so far as to condemn those who do not accept being subjected that does not impart any the moral implications related to the presence of genetic material which for a Catholic is itself a more than sufficient reason we are at war, a war that is not openly declared, that is not fought with conventional weapons, but a war all the same, in which there are aggressors and aggressees, executioners and victims, kangaroo courts and prisoners. A war in which violence is used in ostensibly legal forms in order to violate the rights of citizens as well as believers, It is an epochal war that is a prelude to the end times and the great apostasy spoken of in sacred scripture.
Between the globalists, as we may call them, the architects of this New World Order, and the Catholic Church, with Pope Francis. How can we explain what seems to be a new alliance?
The alliance that you mentioned is not between state and church, but between the deep state and the deep church, that is, the degenerated components present within each. The state has at its hands the bonum comune with respect to both the natural law as well as the divine and positive law. The Church has at her hand the salus animarum with respect to the unchanging teaching of Christ. It is obvious that rulers are not pursuing the common good when they expose a population to experimentation without scientific basis, and it is equally obvious that the ecclesiastical hierarchy, insofar as it lends itself to supporting this massacre plan on the global level, is an accomplice to a crime against humanity, and even more, to a very grave sin against God. The Gregorian Synodry is clearly integral to the plan of the Great Reset. On one hand, because it is pursuing ends that have nothing to do with the purpose of the Catholic Church, and in the other, because it hopes that its complicity can bring it some sort of political and economic advantage in view of the new order. Is there for all to see. In recent days, he has gone as far as to involve cardinals and bishops from both North and South America in this shameful propaganda, including Archbishop Gomez of Los Angeles, the president of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. They too bear responsibility for a grave crime against humanity, such as scandalous subservience of prelates to the infernal globalistic agenda has been surpassed only by the recent heretical rants of Bergoglio himself.
Telling us that the Church has made a shameful alliance with people whose goals are not the same as traditional Christian goals. What price, in your view, is the Church paying for making this choice? Why is it making this choice?
The enslavement of the Holy See and all its peripheral entities to the pandemic narration is the pretium sanguinis of a scandalous betrayal. We see the ecclesiastical hierarchy, with some exception, completely integral to the globalistic plan of the elite, and not only on the earth issue, but also and above all on what concerns the Great Reset and the entire ideological structure on which it is based. In order to do this, the hierarchy has had to apostatize the doctrine, deny Christ, dishonor His Church. The Malthusian ecologism Hellenistic ecumenism, that is a prelude to the constitution of the universal religion. The Fourth Revolution, theorized by Klaus Schwab, and the family of international finance, find in Bergoglio not a neutral spectator, which would itself already be an unheard of thing, but actually a zealous cooperator who abuses his own moral authority in order to support a destra outside the church the project of the dissolution of traditional society, while ad intra within the church he pursues the project of the demolition of the church in order to replace her with a philanthropic organization of Masonic inspiration. And it is scandalous, as well as a source of great sorrow, to see that in the face of this ruthless and cruel massacre, the majority of bishops are silent, or rather, they align themselves obediently out of fear, self-interest, or ideological blindness. On the other hand, today's hierarchy comes from the conciliar school. It has been formed and chosen in view of this evolution. In addition to the episcopate, all of the religious order, university and Catholic institutions have been occupied since the Council by fifth columns that have formed generation of clergy, politicians, intellectual, entrepreneurs, bankers, professors, and journalists, indoctrinating them into progressive ideology. And just as the left has done in the political and cultural sphere, so within the church the innovators have ostracized any voice of dissent, driven out those who are not aligned, and expelled those who resist. The persecution we are witnessing today is no different from that of decades past, but now it has been extended to the masses, while previously it focuses on individuals and the ruling class. This applied to both, to civil and ecclesiastical world, confirming the pactum celeri, the criminal conspiracy between the deep state and the deep church. It seems to me that in this conspiracy the role of the Jesuit has been decisive. It is no coincidence that for the first time in history a religious of the Society of Jesus is seated on the throne of Peter, in violation of the rule established by Saint Ignatius of Loyola.